Hey everybody, welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. My name is Marco and I'm here to help you master your money and build your wealth. Today we're talking about how to stop living paycheck to paycheck, and if you get any value out of this video, please share it with one friend and hit the like button. I would really appreciate it. So if you spend any time on any financial sites or if you spent any time on LinkedIn, you're always going to see about once a month how Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and how many more Americans every year are living paycheck to paycheck. So I did a little bit of research for some background info on this video so I can speak intelligently on this topic. And what I found is actually this survey from 2017 from CareerBuilder.com. As you can see from the screenshot here, CareerBuilder.com surveyed 3,500 full-time workers, and you can see the stats. They're pretty staggering. So let's jump through these real quick because it is relevant to the point of this video. 78% are living paycheck to paycheck. 1 in 10 are actually living paycheck to paycheck that make $100,000 or more per year. More than 1 in 4 or 25% do not set aside savings each month. 3 in 4 say that they're in debt, and half of those 3 out of 4 think that they will always be in debt forever. 27% of workers making $50,000 to $99,999 live paycheck to paycheck, and 70% of those 27% are in debt. That's like your typical middle class right there. That's a very important bullet point. 32% of these 3,500 people surveyed do use a budget, which I actually think is pretty high in my opinion. That's almost 1 out of 3 people. And then 56% save $100 or less a month, which is pretty bad. So with those stats prefacing this video, I do want to get into the very first part of stop living paycheck to paycheck and how to stop living paycheck to paycheck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a pyramid here, and there's a reason why I'm drawing a pyramid and not necessarily 4 equal blocks. There will be 4 parts to this video, or 4 steps if you will. So with every big building, the base, in my opinion, is the most important, and this is step number 1, okay? So for step number 1, I want you to take 100% responsibility for the financial situation that you're in. So most people, just like someone trying to start a diet, they are in the situation that they're in because of the choices and the decisions they've made. Yes, there's medical issues. Yes, you can have a spouse spending money. You can go through layoffs. There can be, blaming the government for high taxes, whatever. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. So you need to be all in on this financial diet so you can stop living paycheck to paycheck. So most of the people watching this video, they're here for a reason, or they're here just because they like my content, which I appreciate. But most people that are searching for diets or financial diets or stop living paycheck to paycheck, they're not here because they have 6-pack abs and they can do 25 pull-ups in a row and they have 5% body fat. They're here because they want to fix the situation that they're in. So number 1 is going to be responsibility, okay? So until you fully buy into your situation or buy into the plan, you're never going to succeed. So basically you need to stop making excuses and own it. So that's why that's the base of the pyramid. But most importantly, the most important part of this first step is finding your why. So why do you want to stop living paycheck to paycheck? And I'm going to go into more details in that later in the video. So the second part of this pyramid is actually going to be your planning, okay? And this is going to be the bulk of the point of this video, or the budget, okay? Because this is actually the hardest part. This is implementing the diet. So if you want to use the diet as the analogy, this is kind of understanding your calories in versus calories out, okay? So ultimately, to be able to plan, you need to take a step back and look at your big picture, okay? So you need to know your money coming in, which is your income, versus your money going out. And if you have a spouse or significant other and kids, you need to look at this as a macro perspective and look at this from what's my wife's income, what's my wife's spending, what's my income, what's my spending, and you need to turn this into a universal household budget. So ultimately, what you need to start with is understanding your needs. This is literally the basic necessities for life. So shelter, electricity, water, food. And I'm not talking about eating out. I'm talking about literally groceries for sustenance, for literally being alive. Okay? Water, drinks, things like that. So once you understand all of your needs, you can see what's left over, and that's what you can contribute to all of your debts if you have any. So a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck because they have ongoing debts instead of being debt-free, and these debts eat away at your universal budget, okay, or your universal income. So once you pay off, the car, the housing, stuff like that, things that absolutely need to be paid off, then you can see, take it a step further and see what you have in terms of what's left over for my wants. These are the things like buying a video game or going to the movies or going out to eat, the things that are spent on hobbies and things like that. So if you have anything left over at that point, that money needs to be automatically going towards paying off the debts and killing that extra fat, if you want to use the analogy of, the diet. If you don't have enough money to actually have anything left over after all your needs, debts, and wants are met, then you need to trim back your eating or the spending on the wants category. These are things that you want and not need, so you can actually contribute a little bit more back towards knocking out the debt. Once you knock out the debt, you can increase your spending a little bit if you want, or you can contribute that to eating up the rest of the debt until you're debt-free, okay? So if you don't have enough money going towards your wants, figure out how to knock out the debt first, and that way you can actually contribute a little bit more to the things that you want. So once you pay off the debt, you need to keep it off, because that way you can set yourself up for step number 3, which in my opinion is the biggest killer of wealth and the reason why people stay in the paycheck to paycheck category. And this is our friend, lifestyle inflation, okay? Sorry, my pen is actually starting to die here. So ultimately, lifestyle inflation is one of the biggest killers of wealth. So this is kind of like the keeping up with the Joneses, making sure that I drive the nice car that's in my driveway so people think I'm successful. Overall, it's just human nature to want to keep up with your lifestyle and keep increasing your lifestyle. So you need to know when to stop. So with the diet, maybe you can have one cheat day a week where you can go out, eat pizza, drink beer, do whatever you want, eat the burgers and all that. But for the other 6, you need to stay humble and actually not inflate your diet or your lifestyle in this case. So it's kind of like human nature, right? If you drive a Toyota and you start making significantly more money, you want to drive the BMW. When you're sick of the BMW, you want to start driving the Porsche. The Porsche leads to the Ferrari. You're sick of the Ferrari, it leads to the Lamborghini, and so on and so on. So here's an interesting stat about lifestyle inflation, and there's a reason why I'm talking about all this to get us to the 4th step. So basically, if you remember earlier in this video, 1 out of 10 people that make $100,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. There's also a very cool article on Financial Samurai that talks about how people making $500,000 a year can easily fall into the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. And I'll send a link to that article in the description below. So basically, the reason I'm talking about lifestyle inflation is because it doesn't really matter how much money you make, you can always succumb to it. Even if you look at like professional athletes and things like that, they a lot of the time end up being broke, okay? So this lifestyle inflation step is setting you up for this right here, and there's a reason why I did this, and that is increasing your income, okay? So there's a reason for this. When you increase your income, you're able to handle it if you've built the solid foundation to get to this point, okay? If you're a lottery winner, I actually looked up these stats. 1 out of 3 big lottery winners actually ends up filing bankruptcy at some point in their lives. So it's 33%. Why do you think that is? It's because they never built up this foundation to actually handle that big sum of money, okay? So now that you've built up the foundation of being responsible, owning your financial situation, planning and budgeting, calories in versus calories out, lifestyle inflation, not succumbing to that Toyota to BMW to Porsche to Ferrari kind of an example, in the McMansion if you want to call it that, and then you can actually handle your increased income. So increased income doesn't need to be anything extravagant. You don't need to win the lottery. It just helps you go from being short-sighted in like, how am I going to pay for groceries this week versus far-sighted or looking at the big picture in your financial plan. So you can now plan for the future, you can plan for college, you can plan for retirement, you can be philanthropic if you want, you can give money away. It just helps you become an overall better person. So what are some ways to go from your W-2 job to actually increasing that? You can increase your credibility with different certificates. You can increase your education. You can start a side business. You can teach on YouTube. You can do pretty much anything to increase your income. It just takes a little bit of time and effort up front to realize those increases over time. So perfect example, my wife right now is a full-time registered nurse in the Midwest. They make decent middle-class money. However, she is studying to be a nurse practitioner. That's going to dedicate 1.5 or 2 years of her life and a couple of tests and a lot of hard work. But ultimately, when she becomes a nurse practitioner, it will most likely double her income. So that'll take us from middle class to like maybe upper middle class. I don't know if that's what you want to consider it. But my point is that she's sacrificing about 2 years of her life with a lot of hard work because she's still working full time. But ultimately, she'll see that increased salary for years after she completes that program. So that's just a small example. Ultimately, my final point on this video is that once you master this pyramid and once you actually understand how money works, and it's almost just like a diet, it's almost like anything else in life, it's so easy to do, especially once you get step number 2 down. So own it, plan for it, don't increase your lifestyle, increase your income when possible and when feasible, and I guarantee you will set yourself up for financial future, for a positive financial future, and also you will stop living paycheck to paycheck. I know this video was a little bit more philosophical and a little bit more rambling, if you will, but if you got anything out of this video, please share it with one friend, hit the like button, and subscribe below if you haven't already. Thank you so much, and as always, have a prosperous day.